Good morning, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butts-Chester. You know what I like to do on the show. I want to enlighten you. I want to inspire you. I want to empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want to get you fired up about being happy, about being yourself. And everyone is in the pursuit of happiness. Everyone wants to be their best self, and that's exactly what our guest today is going to be talking about. We have author Sir Justus with us, and he's written the book, The Chosen Journey of Life. Now, you know what I'm going to tell you. Go on, get your coffee, get your tea, get comfy, get cozy, because we are about to get started. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for joining me on Daily Spark today.
Good morning. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. So before we start talking about your book and all of that, because I definitely want to talk about that, let's introduce you to the people who don't know who you are. So if you could please tell us a little bit about you. What makes you you?
Hey, I'm going to start with my growing up in New Jersey. And so for most of my years in New Jersey, I grew up in Newark and moved to Irvington. And that's where I started to be around many different cultures of people and understood that there's different things that we do. So growing up from there, I moved to the south in Georgia in a rural town called Hawkinsville, Georgia. So from there, I started to realize there was a difference in how people thought. There's a big difference for how people are without accepting people's values themselves. So I grew up and realized that I need to be around, some synergy of energy. So I decided to go to college at Tuskegee University and and look at myself in the mirror. And from there, I started to get more into business and, have a family and start to really realize what are values made out of. So for me, I started to realize I had to look within myself to get the answers that I needed to know. And so from there, I moved back to Georgia and went to Atlanta after receiving my credentials for associate degrees and engineering degrees and wanting to go further with my life and understand more about what is it, do we just work for money or do we create something that is going to be better? So I stayed in Atlanta until I can get the business off the ground. And Atlanta is my foundation for getting business off the ground to go to other places across the world. So for me, I'm in Atlanta, and that's where I am, building business to be free. And so that's what my journey is about, to be free, to help others to become free, as I've experienced the things that cause many to go through trials and tribulations and to suffer, and not to have that anymore, but to be free in your heart and your mind where you are at peace. Peace is a treasure, and I wish to have that with everyone else.
Right, first. Now, being an author, is that something that you always wanted to do, or is that something that you found was just the next logical step for this particular stage of life?
Dealing with self, you start a family, you don't know if you wasn't given instructions how to build it. You don't know. So you start with family and you have children. There's values that children should have. So if things go wrong between the man and the woman, which is the synergy, the foundation of the home, we have to question it when things go wrong. And so I spent time with myself after things went wrong and had to deal with self. And out of self, wisdom came. And that's how the book was formed.
Now, for so many people, they ask the age-old question of, what am I here for? What is my purpose? What am I supposed to do with this time that's been assigned to us as earth beings? That's something that you like to talk about. Why are you here on earth?
Yes, why are we here on earth? Starting with myself. We have a purpose, but if we decide to be complacent with the society that we have, we don't know why we're here. So I wanted to know that, and I wanted to seek that. So looking in nature, everything has purpose. So I didn't allow myself to just be stuck at what everyone else is doing just because you
Mm-hmm.
can make money. Making money is not money if it's not something that can be long, without your work involved in it. Because our worth is about how we can serve others. So I wanted to find a way where I can serve others without being attached to the active work that takes the energy out of you, it depletes you, and you cannot look at why you're being depleted.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I wanted to get back to what I can do to help others because we all have different gifts, different vibrations, different energies. So to be free means that not just money working, but I am here to be actively working to help others be free. And that I realized that is how we have relationships come together. So my purpose
Mm-hmm.
is to improve the quality of relationships, improve the quality of life, improve the quality of the mind and how we think to get to where we were. We were kings and queens in ancient times. It's now how we are positioning ourselves on the earth today. So we cannot forget the past because our tomorrow builds upon what we know that we didn't know before. And that's how we have understanding of things from ancient to the things we have today to build something that is legacy. So purpose is for legacy.
Mm-hmm. So how do you create values or receive the values inherited by society?
Goodness. Um, you first have to love yourself because to welcome someone else or anything else in your life, whatever you um, fix yourself to, whether it be work for a corporation or anything, does that align with self? If it doesn't, you compromise your values and you're not able to do the things you would be able to create something greater than that. So then your words would fall and you'd be no one be esteemed by what you say. So we close ourselves up when we surrender ourselves just for money to have something make ends meet in the house. So I wanted to be able to have a way that you're being free from someone else's values that doesn't align with your purpose, your mission, your goals. So it's first having time to spend with self to know these are my values, this is what I want to stand for. And then if it does happen, speak on it. Because if it doesn't pursue your interest, we have to go where it does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One of the topics that it looks like you discussed is relationship or our dynamic, our interconnectedness with one another. So, with that being said, why is a man good for a woman and a woman good for a man?
So our relationships that we create when it comes to the home deals with man, woman, child. We're fortunate to have that. So with that relationship, there's energy bouncing back and forth. And with that energy, it is there to create something greater than what we knew before. So knowing and understanding, say a woman, for a man to understand a woman is good because he's in touch with his own feelings, his own things that he senses. With a man, we're more logical. With women, they're more feelers, those that really, know themselves. So without having time to feel yourself as a man or to know, we have blockages. We can be great creators, but then there's blockages for our energy for others to feel fine with themselves. So a lot of times we know our dislikes and likes without knowing um, how to appreciate the other. So coming together is for appreciation, how we can go further and build new things that doesn't require so much energy. A lot of energy is spent in frustration, which leads to stagnation because we're not going anywhere. We're pulling at each other. So it's best to be able to appreciate what we have together that's common before we start to build any further. So that's why it's important for the two to come together to understand what are you building? What is the mind, the heart made out of to go further? Other than likes and dislikes, other than what feels good. We have to learn how to appreciate, because appreciation is how we show that we're grateful. There's gratification in what's value graded for love to grow stronger.
Well, sir, it is time for us to go to break. But before we do, if you could please, can you remind everyone what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And how do we follow you online?
Okay, the name of the book, the title is The Chosen Journey of Life. And you can get a copy of this book on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and the place where it's featured is on authorhouse.com. And I'm also on Facebook, which I'm improving the website, but you can find me on Facebook. So Justus Abramovic is in the process of being improved.
Alrighty, everyone. Now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. You know who I am. I'm Dr. Angela Butts-Chester. My guest today is Sir Justus, and we're talking about his book, The Chosen Journey of Life. I know, really good title. So, sir, my next question for you is, again, along that same vein of you talking about relationships and the male and female dynamic of relationships, would you say that it is true that a man knows nothing about a woman's heart? Is that a statement that you agree with, disagree with? How do you bring that up in the book?
It's like this. If a man chooses not to hear a woman's mind or feel what a woman's feeling, to know her intentions, her actions, how can he? All he would know is what he dislikes and likes about her. Some days are good, some days are not good. We have mood swings based on what we remember, what we capture, what we store. But who knows the whole story of the person that we are with? So it's having that quiet time to just spend those times and cherish those moments, to know. Because a lot of times we may not have the right image of what the woman should be or what the man should be. So it's just being able to take that time, having some quiet time together to know those moments and what the energy feels like. A lot of time we don't sense one's energy, we just go into the moment. So how can we know anything about anything we're not learned in nature inherently? We all have feelings, we all have a mind, but rather than doing so much thinking all the time, let's just be in the space, be in the presence of one another to know how one is. And to know the nature of one is to observe and to listen and to hear and to feel using all your senses of your being without jumping to conclusions. So, and most times we have today a lot of people falling apart. And so that's what we have. Instead of having a thing that, hey, if you do this, you're with this person for life. So people end up living by someone's understanding rather than living by their desires of their intentions. So that's how we can come to a better place of knowing one and choosing the right person to be with.
Along that same vein, you talk about affection, again, when it talks about the male and female dynamic. You make a statement of that women should know a man's heart as well. So how could a woman know a man's heart without returning of affection? What does that statement mean? Expound a little on that.
Okay. There could be so many things that a woman do to try to get a man's attention. But if it doesn't give anything in return, how could you know? But at the same time, they take one man longer or shorter time than another. So everybody has their span of time that they know that this person is good. But until the affection return, you know, okay, there's hope. There's something behind that. We have something we can build from that. It's appreciation, the affection appreciation, not just for, a casual, type of reaction, but it's something that you can feel from the heart that is genuine. That's the return of affection we're looking for. If something is built to be built, it's something that no matter what time of the day or any time, it's like, it's good. It's good energy. It's something that is appreciated at all times. So it has to be something that a man desires, but at the same time, it takes time to build that. And so, a lot of things in a man's heart is all reserved. They're reserved to make sure it is good. Because to build something too quickly could fall apart because of emotions. And a woman's a feeler, she's into her emotions. So things take time to build in a man's heart. So the affections of revealing his heart is going to take time.
So someone may be saying, how have you been able to glean all of this information? Is this purely research? Were you a part of a team that delved into this? Has the universe just imparted this wisdom upon you? So for the person who wants to kind of qualify why you're sharing what you're sharing and how you were able to come about that information, how would you say that the universe has shared this information with you?
Watching families fall apart. Seeing people in relationships they realize they shouldn't have been in. Giving time to think about why so many people are following certain crowds and then yet they're unhappy. Why so many people can relate to each other online than in person. People sometimes don't reveal their truest self until stuff gets hard and they can't take it anymore. So why do we get ourselves in relationships or situations that we know or we may not know? We have some hope. We have some hope that there's an outcome that things could work. But as you today, the most records of any relationship breakings or divorces taking place now than ever. So we're looking at the foundation of the statistics of numbers that take place in today's society than what we have in previous times that many nations have become great. And a nation of people cannot become great without a stable home. So it's common sense, but at the same time, we can go back into the past and see how things in the past, whether they were done to keep the wealth within families or to just keep that mindset, which is, say, if you're a doctor, we choose and we stay together for that common purpose to make sure the descendants are the same way. But now it's different. Now people are choosing relationships to be in, whether, what's at stake. But it's wisdom that teaches us to learn the essence of one than to be in the presence of one for a great time of intimate relationship. So it's always about friendship first before intimacy. I think that knowing someone first and knowing the ins and outs helps to build a happy home if that's something that both desire. And then some friendships are just good just to be friends, but it's all about the compatibility of the heart, the mind, because directions are based on your heart and your mind, your purpose, your passion, your mission, your goals, your ambitions, your dreams.
Now, in cumulative time, how long did it take for you to research all of your numbers and to get the information that you needed to successfully compile a book?
Some things come to me quicker by meditation, by reflecting on what went wrong with myself. And then I test it And I look for numbers because my profession by trade is data analytics. So being able to look at how many single women are out there and how many men are, of a certain minority class are in a predicament that they are in today, not being able to do the things they desire to do in life. I'm able to see that if we choose the right time of effort to put our energy into, we will be very successful. So to look at numbers and to look at, there's many different sites today. We can go on to see statistics for divorces and how many families are going to courts over, children and children's rights and things of that nature. We can see that from there, those numbers, they do tell the story. But it's here for us to take values and make things better by taking control of our life. A lot of times we're not doing that. We're only allowing life to live as we see what we think is good. But it's most times misunderstood because we're not watching for certain values that we desire to have and having that discipline. The same way we eat, the way we choose our lifestyle and how we eat. It's also another discipline for whether you want to live for a certain length of time. But, if we don't hold close to these values to be true to self, we miss out on these things. And then that's what happens when we have an unhappy life. Yeah, it's not promising. But the goal is to have a happy life with knowing ourselves and what our values are, holding dear to that. And if there is another or more people that agree with that, that becomes a family or a community. Because everyone is here to increase each other's values, to become greater in what we are, to be able to serve each other and many people that do not have these values.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk
Now, for someone who says, I'm trying to get on the right path, the next question is, how do you know when you are on the right path? How do you know when you're walking towards your destiny?
When you have nothing you can do alone. Nothing in life you can do alone. There is connections. And so with connections, that is how we make things happen. Whether you go to work for someone or not, there's connection to you getting to your purpose, your destiny, which was chosen for you. So through unity, through people having a collective effort to get to a certain place, it's better to be with those that have been there than those that have not. So where you aspire to be, it is better to get around those people of the values that you choose for yourself to know you will not be compromised in any area. Because to have peace, to walk in peace, is to have happiness. Happiness, peace, and love for life, and love for how you handle and treat people is very important. So it's how you receive the message from those that are before you is how you get to be on the right path to your destiny.
Now, last question for you, and that is dealing with one's faith. The title of your book is amazing, The Chosen Journey of Life. How do you think that your faith has played into the person that you are today and how you were able to not only live your present life, but how you were able to share in your book?
Not being selfish. Having unselfish mindset to hear everyone, no matter what faith they are, no matter what they think, because we're all connected.
Mm-hmm.
It would be foolish for me not to hear anyone, even if I don't like what they say. I don't hold in my heart any resentment for what someone said, because we're all connected.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be in a mindset of that life is immortal for those that choose those immortal values. There's universal laws out here. Nature abides by it. That's why the earth continually renews itself. So were we not made from the earth? We have heavy little celestial matter that we have in our bodies. So we are here to create as creators that have an infinite potential to do many things. It's up to us how we use our energy. And that becomes synergy. It's a power of an endless life. But to channel that, it takes a silent power to do that. It goes within itself and connecting with those that within themselves as well.
I have to agree with you on that. We are definitely all interconnected. We must choose what we are going to do with that energy. I love that. I love that. We definitely need to make sure that we are walking along the correct path for our lives. I love it. Well, Sir Justus, I want to say thank you so much for spending time with us here today on Daily Spark. But before I let you go, if you would please, one last time, remind everyone, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And how do we stay in contact with you?
Okay. The title of the book, The Chosen Journey of Life. The Heart to Know, The Search to Seek Out Wisdom. It can be found on Amazon.com. It can be found on BarnesandNoble.com. Also, the book was published at AuthorHouse.com. We're working on some marketing media to get out there. But till now, I'm on Facebook, and you can find me as Sir Justus Abramovic on Facebook as well. And I'm constantly, looking at my pages now that I'm starting to do more, which you can hit me on the messenger on there. Thank you.
Alrighty. Thank you again for being on. And listeners, thank you for spending time with us once again here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. We hope as always that the Lord continues to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. And of course, do remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Until next time, everyone. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. You know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten you. I want to inspire you. I want to empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want to get you fired up about self-publishing. Now, my guest today is Bobby Richardson, and we're talking about his book, Center City. Now, you know what I'm going to tell you to do. Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee, or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Good morning, Bobby. Thank you so much for joining me on Daily Spark.
Good morning, Doctor. It's a pleasure to be with you, certainly.
I'm so excited to be able to talk to you about your book today. But before we do that, we know that there are so many people that are familiar with who you are, but perhaps this is the first time some of our listeners have heard about you and about your work. Can you tell us a little bit about what makes Bobby Richardson Bobby? What makes you you?
Well, I can say that, I enjoy reading and writing, and, writing my book, Center City, was something that I felt was sort of an extension of my creative skill set, because basically most people know me as an artist, painter, and but being the nerd that I am, I also enjoy reading and writing, and there came a time when, when I thought that some of my writing philosophies and would be enjoyed by some others.
So being an author, is that something that you always wanted to do, or did you find that it was just the next logical step on your life path?
Well, it all came about in a sort of an outlet for the grieving that I felt for a friend of mine who passed away, that I was very close with. We sort of grew up together, and we hung out together quite a bit, but he passed away suddenly and mysteriously.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I recall that one of our last, you know, hanging out together one evening, you know, he's mentioned, you know, as we were talking about the old days and the old neighborhood and everything, he said, you know, Bob, why don't you should write a book about this stuff, man, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I said, no, why don't you write the book? You should write it. He said, no, you write it. I'll write it. But when, you know, it suddenly, you know, when he passed, I was so grief-stricken, and I remember that I had never thought about writing about perhaps some of the old characters from our neighborhood and whatnot. That I, as a testament to him,
Mm-hmm.
I wrote my first book, and that began my writing career.
Mm-hmm.
And
Now, the title of your book, Center City. Can you explain to us why is that significant? What's the importance of your title?
That in this area of Pennsylvania where I'm from, Philadelphia, it's sort of Center City is where the action is, where all the successful businesses and offices and restaurants and all the action is, you know, takes place in Center City. So that's where the setting of this story is.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, because of the character, the main character is a character named Marvin Robinson, and he is a very successful business person. So the story is pretty much set around his office business and his business activities, because I wanted to promote this image of a successful corporate person, hero, rather than a more typical athletic type of hero or entertainer or athlete. You know, that there are other ways that black people can be, you know, considered super successful.
Absolutely.
You know,
so pretty much just not the stereotypical way. You know, we're not dancing, we're not, you know, going for the touchdown, even though those are awesome ways. But that's the stereotypical way.
But as an alternative, and just to be different, a little different.
Right. Absolutely. Because I think you're right. We need to be reminded, and especially the world needs to be reminded, that we do go to college and universities as well. We do produce doctors and attorneys and, you know, scientists and the like. So it's like, let's also take a look at those people who are heroes to our society because of their contributions.
That
so
was
absolutely.
Of the story, yes. And we're following him, like all great stories, I think, have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Mm-hmm.
So, starting with a successful person, in this book anyway, we proceed to the ultimate obstacles that one might run into during the middle stories that he overcomes.
And now, when you were writing the book, did you have a particular reader in mind? Were you writing this to include our younger people, like high schoolers? Were you writing this for someone who is perhaps a little more settled in their life, in their 30s, let's say, or 40s? Was there a particular reader that you had in mind, or did you simply say the story needs to be shared and whomever wants to read, take a gander?
Well, yes, actually, it was really designed for all ages, because it is actually the second book of a three-story trilogy of this character. And in the first book, he sort of it chronicles his beginnings, his humble beginnings, which is where his very humble beginnings of a very low economic class. And he, by the end of that story, of course, he becomes a very successful person, business person. Center City is placed, like I said, in a Center City office building, and he is successful. He continues to be successful, and the inspiring part was that he overcomes a lot of challenges to remain successful. As a lot of successful business people, I'm sure, will attest to that. There's competition and there's jealousies and things that would try to block your progress. So in the book, I hope that the reader will find it inspiring the way that he credibly not only overcomes and these obstacles with his determination, but that the philosophy of determination and ambition and stick-to-itness will be inspiring for people, just the way it was for the character in the book.
And I think you're right. I think that the person who is looking for the inspiration will definitely see the inspiration along the way. There are so many people who have gathered that extra push, that extra little nudge that they needed to go on and step out in faith, or to step out in that idea, or to hit the reset button, whatever it is, because of a book that they have read. I know that for myself, there have been so many books that keep me encouraged, that keep me in the mindset that it takes to be who I am and to do what God has purposed for me. So absolutely, I can understand that.
Was the goal. That was absolutely the goal and purpose of all the energy that I put into the book. Hopefully that the reader will be inspired by his character. And he is deliberately set as and created to be a role model, a positive role model. Yes.
When you were writing, did you find that you needed to have a certain environment in order to write successfully? Did you need it to be quiet? Did you need to be away from others? Did you do like the old movies where you went off to the log cabin and you cranked out the book in a month? What type of environment did you need to be successful?
Yes, well, like I said, I also am an oil painter. I paint and draw, and I have a studio that is off limits to most of the family that I sort of hide away in anyway. So my writing workstation is there as well. And that's where I can be found most of the day anyway. when I don't have to go out for an errand. So I do have a writing station in my studio. Yes.
And I think that most people are protective of their creative space, no matter how you are being creative, be it that you are writing or sculpting or you're crafting or you are spinning, whatever it is that you do, the particular art form that you do to be creative. I think that most people are like that. It's almost as though, this is a sacred place for me. This is where I go to do what it is that I do. And you have it the way that you like it, the way that you need it in order for it to be productive for you. And you don't want anyone to disrupt that energy, that vibe, that placement that you have there. So I definitely agree with you on that one. I hear you. It is time for us to go to break. But Bobby, before we do that, if you could please, can you remind everyone what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And how do we stay in contact with you?
Okay, the title of the book is Center City. It's available on Amazon and wherever books are sold. If they are not on your bookseller's bookshelf, please request it. Center City by Bobby Richardson. And my website would be BobbyRichardsonBooks.vpweb.com.
Alrighty, everyone. Now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butts-Chester. My guest today is Bobby Richardson, and we're talking about his book, Center City. I love the fact that it is a book about positivity, something that's going to motivate you and inspire you. Because, that's what we do on Daily Spark, Dr. Angela. Well, Bobby, my next question to you is about self-publishing. That's something that you talk about, and especially self-publishing for beginners. So with that being said, what made you decide that was something that you wanted to share with others, a topic that you wanted to talk about for others?
Well, because, I'm asked a lot of time when people find out that I've written a book and a couple of books now, people ask me how they might get into writing and publishing their stories, So I'm always happy to share my experiences with those who might, be considering publishing their own book because, of course, it's much easier to self-publish than to get one of the traditional publishers who take interest in your book. It's, so the advice that I give people when asked how they might begin a writing publishing career is that they be prepared to take on the challenges of self-publishing because it's not as easy as it might seem because writing a book or a story that you like to tell is a lot easier than marketing that product. There's a lot more to it. It's easier to think about and typing a story than to actually copy edit a story, especially if your grammar is not very good, like mine. It's horrible, so, you have to, there's copy editing that's going to be involved You're not just going to bang out a story real quick and think that it's going to get published and be on every bookshelf the next day. So I sort of, the question that I often ask in my workshops, I begin with, how bad do you want it? Because there's going to be a lot of back and forth that you're going to run into in trying to get a book published.
So what is the... Go ahead.
No, because for one thing, professional editing was extremely challenging for me because my grammar was never that good. Though even in schools, my teachers always encouraged me to perhaps pursue a writing career because I love to write. And I would often go into these long, drawn-out essays when a simple writing answer was required. You know, they said, boy, you love to write, don't you? But my grammar was always, I'll say, weak. So so for writers who want to write, you know, it might be well to think about having a copy editor help you along with
right. So what are the main 3 bits of advice that you would give to an aspiring author? So your one bit is that you should have an editor. Do you have 2 other bits of advice for that person who's a beginner who's ready to step out and write that book?
Yeah, you have a passion for writing and a determination to get that product produced and in your hands. That is one of the most wonderful feelings you could have besides birthing a child, is when that finished product is delivered to you. And so there will be a lot of passion that must be involved. You have to write. I always recommend that if you want to be a writer, you should really have a passion for writing and just start writing and write. Just write all the time. Just write about everything. Just write. Because if you're not really writing, then you're not really a writer. Just the same way as if you're not if you don't play football, you're not a football player.
So with the main bits of getting a book out there, you have to have an editor, for example. You mentioned that. What about the illustrator or the person who's going to do the cover of the book for you? What other, if we had 3 things that we needed to focus on in the self-publishing bit. So one would be getting a really great editor. What about the cover? What's your suggestion on that?
It was the fun part for me because, like I said, my degree is in art, so I enjoyed that part the most, designing the cover for my books, and so you know, most publishing houses have, you know, art directors that will help you with your artwork and the illustrations, and I didn't meet, that was the easiest part for me. But you know, I think that it's very important to have a strong cover. Yes.
So what made you decide that now was the time for your book, to self-publish your book?
Well, like I said, it began with wanting to honor my good friend,
Mm-hmm.
who was the one that encouraged me to write a book when I had no thought of writing a book. But the artist in me believes that art is whether it's painting or writing or any of the dancing, any of the arts, art is anything that you do very well, that you do artfully, that you do excellently. So in my writings, it's just an extension of my creative skill. I try to approach my writing the same way I approach my artwork, and the way I view any artist, as just something that is done as artfully and beautifully. And I think that the images and the characters that I create in my writing, that hopefully the reader will visualize them and see them as artful as well. Artful
Mm-hmm.
reading. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If that's,
Mm-hmm.
makes any sense.
So you mentioned that you have already written other books. What are your future plans? And perhaps you hinted at it when you're saying, writing. Are there other books that we should expect from you, other than the trilogy that you mentioned earlier? Are there any other books that you plan on writing?
Well, I'm hoping that, because a lot of people tell me that Center City is sort of reads as a movie, and I have actually been pitching it from time to time as a screenplay, because this positive image that I'm trying to project with this character, I think would be even more potent as a screen character.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So maybe one of these days it'll be picked up and considered.
Mm-hmm. We never know what God has in plan in store for us, what the ultimate plan is going to be. So, of course, continue prayers that will, if that is in the Master's plan, that it will definitely come to fruition for you. That would definitely be amazing.
That is
now, for anyone who says, I like what you're saying, and I definitely want to step out this year and start writing my book. We have about 2 minutes left in this end, but so I'd love to, open the floor up. What bit of advice for someone who's stepping out, who's an aspiring author? What are the maybe one or two really great points that you wish that someone had told you, or something that you discovered that you would love to be able to share with that person?
Yeah, that everyone has a unique perspective and a story that they can tell.
Mm-hmm.
River City is just my personal perspective on that glorifies a character who's just became a legend for his goodness. And I think that's a positive message that I wanted to, and positive type character that I wanted to hopefully inspire readers who will enjoy reading about such a character.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any advice for someone who is just starting off as a writer, like some do's or don'ts, something to encourage them to continue to writing? Mm-hmm.
I encourage them to just write as much as possible. They will be surprised at how much easier it will become the more you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Writing is just like any other art that you practice. The more you do it, the better you will become. And if you're passionate and have a purpose and a message, especially if it's a positive message, I encourage you to just write, and keep writing and write, and submit your writing to publishers, and just keep writing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A great bit of advice. Just keep writing. I love it. Well, Bobby Richardson, thank you so much for coming on Daily Spark today and sharing your book with us, Center City, and for giving us advice. We really and truly appreciate it. Thank you again. Well, listeners, we want to thank you as well for spending time with us today. We know that you could be anywhere, but you chose to spend some time with me today. Thank you. I hope that we have enlightened, inspired, and empowered you. As always, may the Lord continue to shine His face upon you. May you receive His grace and His mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.